I am Matt Pillar, Chief Editor at Bioprocess Online and host of the Business of Biotech podcast, and your host for today's Bioprocess Online Live. I'm thrilled that you've chosen to spend part of your morning with us, and I'd also like to thank Thermo Fisher Scientific for making this program available to the Life Science Connect and Bioprocess Online communities at no cost to you but your time. Now, we know very well that process intensification is not necessarily a new concept in biopharmaceutical manufacturing, and neither, for that matter, is continuous manufacturing. But we also know that one of these things, process intensification, has matured to the point of actual application and use case, and is, in most cases, prerequisite to more recent and nascent applications of continuous manufacturing in both upstream and downstream operations. These are things that your peers are doing, not just talking about. So despite the fact that there may be newer, shinier, or sexier biotech topics for some freewheeling conversation on a Tuesday morning, we decided instead to gather a couple of subject matter experts who don't speculate nearly as much as they operate. And by operate, I mean they roll up their sleeves daily to test and execute intensified bioprocesses with measurable goals and deliverables in mind. Dr. Irina Ramos and Sanjay Nilapwar are no strangers to the PI and continuous manufacturing community. They're both regulars on the conference speaking circuit, and they're both well respected for the work that they're doing at AstraZeneca and AbbVie, respectively. Irina is Director of Bioprocess Technology and Engineering at AZ, while Sanjay serves AbbVie's Bioprocess Development, Operations Science and Technology Group as a principal scientist. Through the course of today's conversation, we're going to discuss what they're learning, what they're deploying, and importantly, why. And I'm inviting you who've dialed in to help me out. Use that chat box early and often to ask Irina and Sanjay questions. They're here for you, and your questions are almost certainly better and more important than mine are. So let's get started. And let me start by saying, Irina and Sanjay, thank you for sharing your time and for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me here talking about this interesting topic.
I know you both do. Yeah, I've had the benefit of some conversation with both of you, and I've learned, spent enough time with each of you, enough time to learn that the why behind your respective process intensification initiatives at AstraZeneca and AbbVie are different. Like the motivation and the why is different in some cases, and that's kind of where I want to start with today's conversation. So Irina, I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up with you. I'm just going to offer a broad question. Tell us about the why behind the motivation at AstraZeneca.
Yeah, absolutely. We spend too much water in our processes today. We spend too much money developing processes that often don't reach the rest of the world, don't enable some low productivity drugs to become products to reach the patients. And we also build very large facilities that will not only cost a lot of money, but will spend a lot of energy to operate. So those are three major pillars that were enablers to start thinking, how can we as engineers start thinking about optimizing, improving, and be more sustainable for the next generation manufacturing. As we move forward to find those solutions that I'm sure you're going to have more questions related to that, we certainly want to make sure we can recycle not only consumables and water, but we can leverage our already known technologies and systems and automation to move the needle a bit. And instead of just control processes with only the traditional sensors and the traditional PAT, we can talk more about how can we look forward to the next generation of control systems as well.
Yeah. Sanjay, I know that through discussion with you, part of the motivation at AbbVie has been around footprint. So can you elaborate a little bit on that and tell us about what's driving the advance of process intensification at AbbVie?
He's
And
muted,
the
right?
facilities and the titers we are getting from last 20 years, the titers we get from say upstream culture is increasing. We are looking at, I think in the past we is looking at about 1 gram per liter MAB processes, but now we are targeting almost like 8 to 10 gram per liter, and some companies also done that. They can make up to 14, 15 gram per liter of MAB. So the facilities we design is not designed to evacuate all the materials from upstream. What our intensification idea or our goals are to use the existing facility, minimize the equipment utilization, and get more efficiency out of our existing processes. How we could leverage the knowledge we have in the past to design a much more intensified process. That's where our philosophy is being. At the moment, we develop technologies in our lab with different collaborators also. We work with different collaborators to see what works best for our intensified use. Things like process intensification or perfusion, or for downstream, we got SPTFF and next generation of virus filtration. So all we try to combine all this process intensification technologies together. That's where our motivation is being.
I'm curious about just a quick follow-up question to that for both of you. Where does that I guess direction come from? Is it sort of a top-down, like in the case of AbbVie, Sanjay? Is it sort of a, we've invested significantly in facilities like that beautiful one that I see behind you on the screen right now. We don't necessarily want to stick a shovel in the ground and spend $500 million or $1 billion on a new facility. So we're going to hire people like Sanjay, and at AstraZeneca, we're going to hire people like Irina to say, okay, here's what we've got. Make it better. Is it sort of a top-down motivation in that sense? Sanjay, I'll start with you.
Actually, it starts, I think, in our company, I think it's all bottoms approach. I think we have to show that this approach we are working on has to be taken up by some SMEs and see that what new technologies are coming up, and get the management or bottoms up or get the management more interested to see that how we invest in this newer technologies will benefit us in future.
How about at AstraZeneca, Irina?
Absolutely needs to come from top. There's no way a large initiative that really touches the portfolio the way it will be very soon could come just from project teams. And if the driver, and some of you are aware, is very public of sustainability for our global organization by 2030, there's very challenging goals to achieve. Biomanufacturing is part of it. So top down, there was these almost like a mandate, tell us how can we help to make sure we can achieve these level of productivity and this level of sustainability to our processes. There was a drive throughout the COVID times to think about supply chain. So any new technology implementation has to come with that level of scrutiny. Having a plan A is not enough. So as you bring novel technology, work very closely with vendors, you need to understand your supply as well. So the potential at AstraZeneca to have next generation manufacturing to cover a large portion of our portfolio is key, even if it will take a few years to endorse that. And moving forward, I can only imagine the importance that will be to have more vendors in our grid to supply aspects or accessories to this overarching plan.